It's Wednesday the 1st of February 2017, and you are listening to the Paul Clark Podcast. So believe it or not, there are those out there that don't believe the likes of you and I should have the ability to do this, should have a platform, should have a podcast, should have the ability to write a blog and get the truth, what we perceive to be the truth, out there. They don't believe in that. They undermine what we do here on the new medium. It's because, you see, we have honesty and integrity, which is something that the mainstream media don't have, and in particular, the broadsheets, the grubby little tabloid newspapers, certainly have long since lost. They don't believe in honesty, truth, and they long since lost their journalistic integrity. Now, before you predict, before you try to second guess what this podcast might be about today, and you may think, okay, it's another politically charged podcast. It's going to be about Donald Trump versus the media. Fake news. Well, you're partly right. Nothing to do with Donald Trump. In fact, this is a politically free zone. But it is to do with fake news. But it's fake news of a different kind. Because you see, long before I was interested in politics and world events, long before I knew the difference between left and right, between Republican and Democrat, between conservative and liberal, long before I even knew who my own Prime Minister was, I was a Doctor Who fan first. That's who I am at my core. And I would trade in the victory of President Trump. I would trade in my vote for Brexit, my vote for us leaving the European Union. I would trade it all in. I would trade it all in the blink of an eye for Doctor Who. I would. I really would, because it means far more to me than silly, petty, political squabbles. Doctor Who means far more to me. And Doctor Who in particular, under the era of Stephen Moffat, Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi. I have loved the last 6 years of Doctor Who. But of course, there are those that disagree. And nothing breaks my heart more, I think, than when I open up a grubby little newspaper and I see a two-page spread undermining, chastising, demeaning the brilliant work of Stephen Moffat and outgoing Doctor Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi announced earlier this week that he will be stepping down from his role as the Doctor in Doctor Who in the 2017 Christmas special, and many people out there, many fans, including myself, were very upset, excited, because it's always exciting, you know, when one Doctor leaves and another begins. But it can also be a very sad occasion, a very sombre affair. But for some out there, I suppose it's cause for celebration, because there are some that may not have agreed with the casting of Peter Capaldi, and it appears that the Sun newspaper is one of them. So when I open up the newspaper today, and I see a two-page spread condemning Peter Capaldi, condemning Stephen Moffat, condemning Doctor Who and its history, I feel two things. One is rage, and the other is upset. Because unlike politics, I can handle someone chastising Trump. I can handle myself in a political argument just as much as anyone. But I do get emotional about Doctor Who, and particularly Doctor Who over the last 6, 7, 8 years. You know, under the reign of Stephen Moffat, I think the show has excelled to new heights, and I think that Moffat truly is a genius. He's one of the smartest, most charismatic, most brilliant minds that has ever put pen to paper for anything. For anything. Certainly on British television. So you could imagine how upset I get when someone who I look to, I mean, I wouldn't say as a mentor, but someone I certainly hold in great high regard, is demeaned and chastised and basically just genuinely disrespected by a mainstream newspaper. Yeah, it upsets me. It gets to me. But of course you rise above it, because you think at the end of the day, so what? As long as you like it, who cares? And that's true. And that's something that a friend of mine many times before has said to me. It's like, look, Paul, just let it go. You know, let it go over your head, because, you know, it's here today, gone tomorrow. Today's newspaper is tomorrow's fish and chip wrapping. It's true. It is true. But I do find it distressing. I do find it upsetting when someone that you love and someone you respect, it isn't repeated within other people. And you could argue, well, that's because people are different and people have different opinions. And I do respect that. I may not always agree with it, but I do respect it. And the Sun, I mean, they're a disgrace, you know, and of course, why should I expect that if they can't give you the truth, if they're incapable of giving you actual statistics, facts, and transparency during a general election or a referendum, if they can't get those right, then of course they're not, you know, of course they're going to misrepresent and lie and mislead about effectively a Saturday night children's TV show. Of course they are. Because that's nothing. If they're not willing to have journalistic integrity for politically charged subjects, when it comes to showbiz, when it comes to entertainment, they'll just write anything they want. Anything they want. But that's why it's important that fans like you, fans like me, we have these platforms, we have these podcasts, and we can get the truth out there. You know, the Sun can write up as much as they like about Doctor Who's declining ratings. The fact of the matter is, Doctor Who continues to be one of the most watched shows on British television. It's one of the biggest import and exports that we have around the world. It remains a main staple, a flagship of British drama. It's something we should be proud of, not something we should let grubby tabloids like The Sun and the Daily Mail run down. Doctor Who will outlast all those guys. People will be watching Doctor Who in 1,000 years from now. When you and me are long gone, there will be generations of children that will be following the adventures of the Doctor and his companion. Peter Capaldi's 3 seasons as the Doctor will be watched endlessly by countless generations to come. Whereas the Sun newspaper and their article today, no one, apart from, you know, saddos like myself who have nothing better to do, will remember it. Will remember it. And what is probably great about Doctor Who, and what is probably great about the people, most of all, that work on this brilliant show, is that its threshold and its tolerance, even for those that loathe and despise it, is unchallenged. You know, it transcends all kind of hatred. It transcends any kind of negativity Doctor Who has been poked fun at, chastised, mocked, kicked, dragged through the mud, and yet still it remains. Still it remains. Growing up as a fan of Doctor Who in the 90s wasn't easy, because it wasn't the cool thing to be a Doctor Who fan. What was cool at that point was shows like Star Trek Next Generation or Buffy. Doctor Who was an old relic. But I didn't care. I was happy and proud to be a Doctor Who fan. Didn't make me popular in the playground, but what the hell? And on that note, and I believe that there are many people out there that will be able to relate to this, my true friends, the people I really respect in life, I didn't meet at school, college, or even at my brief and very unsuccessful stint at university. I met through Doctor Who conventions. Some of the best and everlasting friendships I have made. My best friend I met because of Doctor Who. And that all happened, actually, under the reign of Stephen Moffat. So, and I mean, we probably would have met anyway. I don't know. I'm not saying Stephen Moffat and Doctor Who brought us together, but I certainly think it linked us up, and it made us aware of each other's existence. So I thank Doctor Who for that. And I think it's very sad that there are people out there who obviously lack any kind of heart, warmth and soul, and want to demean and destroy something that is a force for goodness in the world. Politically we can disagree, politically we can squabble all we like, but things like Doctor Who are a force for good in the world, and I believe are a lot more relevant and are a lot more important to us than any political party, because they make us happy. And happiness is in short supply in this world. But as long as Doctor Who is there, I will keep my faith and I will keep my optimism in people and the kindness and goodness of people, regardless of which side the political fence we may be on. And listen, just going back to what I was saying about being a Doctor Who fan and how growing up in the 90s in the wake of the TV movie, it wasn't, a cool thing to be. Well, that's the story of my life, really, in many ways, because all the things that I've been into have been chastised, have been demeaned, not just by newspapers, but by people actually physically in my life. All the shows that I have adored growing up and continue to love, Doctor Who, Hercules, Knight Rider, they've all been demeaned. They've all been sneered at. But I look at them as an actor, a thespian of the stage, would look at the texts and the literature of William Shakespeare. Doctor Who is my holy Bible. And I try my best, and often I fail. Quite regularly I don't succeed in this. But I try my best to uphold the morals and the standards that character has taught us to, of tolerance, of love and respect. It gets harder, believe you me, to stand by those morals and those values as you get older. But I'll never stop trying. I'll never stop trying to be him, for I could never be Hercules. I could never be He-Man. I could never be Batman or Superman. But I, as can you, we can be the Doctor. And if we're the Doctor, well, I guess that makes the mainstream media, those that will lie, cheat, mislead, and demean, that makes them the monsters. I like that. The monsters. The MSM. Mainstream monsters. Thanks for listening to the Paul Clark Podcast.